Wow, we got a lot of people in here. Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Arlene Ford, and I am the chair of the DMA's Learning and Engagement Committee, and also serve on the advisory committee for the first ever Black History and Cultural Celebration Weekend. How about that? Woo, yes. I want to welcome you all to this fantastic celebration of Black artists and their powerful contributions to art and history. Today, we're so excited to have you here for this talk with artist Deborah Roberts, the phenomenal, in conversation with our own Ade Omotosho, the Nancy and Tim Hanley Assistant Curator of Contemporary Art here at the DMA. I want to thank you guys for coming in. I also want to thank the Augustus Owen Foundation for their collaboration and for their contribution to this event. I want to thank the Black Girls in Art Spaces for, for their enthusiastic support and promotion of the event. Thank you guys so much. And I also want to thank, we sometimes forget that when we have these kinds of events, a lot of hands are involved in this, right? The DMA staff has been incredible. Our own Stacy Lizote, Shannon Linker is somewhere around. There are a lot of folks who have been involved in this, in getting this to happen. So a big thank you for DMA staff. Yes. Okay, so on to telling you a little bit about our wonderful guest artist. Deborah Roberts, her work is featured in the exhibition here, When You See Me, Visibility in Art, Visibility in History. I hope you guys have seen it, and if you haven't, please take a look. It's a wonderful exhibit. She actually serves as the naming. We named When You See Me after one of her pieces, and that's amazing. She is a mixed media artist whose work challenges the notion of ideal beauty. Her work has been exhibited internationally across the US and across Europe. Her works can be found in four major, not one, not two, not three, four major New York City museums, from the Guggenheim, the Student Museum of Art, the Brooklyn Museum. I think I forgot one of them, but she's been in at least four major museums in New York City. Her work has been shown at LACMA in LA. Her work's been shown in the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond, Virginia. She's of course here in our museum. She's at the Modern in Dallas, in Fort Worth, among many other institutions. Her awards and fellowships are numerous. If I named all of them, we would probably be here for quite a while. So I'll just tell you about a few. She was selected to participate in the Robert Rauschenberg Residency in 2019. I'm just gonna hop around and tell you a few of them. She was the recipient of the Anonymous Was a Woman Grant in 2018. She was the recipient of the Texas Medal of Arts Award in 2023. Again, numerous awards. Her stuff is serious and deep, and it's been recognized as such. Ms. Roberts went back to school, may I say, in Jamaica we say as a big woman. That's an indication that she had a few years behind her. She went back and got her MFA at Syracuse University to gain some more depth, and her work has shown growth from that, I think, she might say. She works in Texas. She lives in Austin. She's represented by the Stephen Friedman Gallery in London and the Susanne Vielmetter Los Angeles projects in California. Please, please, get up out of your seats. Join me in welcoming Ms. Deborah Roberts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is that mic?
Are the mics on? Okay.
Yes.
The mics are on. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Thank you, Arlene, for that wonderful introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, Deborah, joining us all the way from Austin, where you were born and raised and where you still live and work. I want to start actually by reading an excerpt of a poem by Denez Smith.
Okay.
I'll just read the first stanza just to kind of begin. Summer Somewhere by Denez Smith. Somewhere, a sun. Below, boys brown as rye play the dozens and ball. Jump in the air and stay there. Boys become new moons, gum dark on all sides. Beg brews blue water to fly, at least tide, at least spit back a father or two. I won't get started. History is what it is. It knows what it did. Bad dog, bad blood, bad day to be a boy. Color of a July well spent. But here, not earth, not heaven, boys can't recall their white shirt. Turned a ruby gown. Here there is no language for officer or law, no color to call white. If snow fell, it'd fall black. Please, don't call us dead. Call us alive someplace better. We say our own names when we pray. We go out for sweets and come back. So Denez then goes on to kind of imagine this afterlife for Black boys who have been murdered by the state, who have been victims of all kinds of state violence, police violence. And in this world, they're allowed the kind of freedom that they're denied in their living. And I was reminded of this poem last night, actually, as I was reading something else. And I think in a similar way, in your own work, you work to imagine a kind of space for Black childhood. And initially, those investigations were really looking at Black girlhood and all its complexities. And then later, it gave way to some kind of explorations of the particularities of Black boyhood.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe we can start by just thinking about what Black childhood means to you. Why is it such a preoccupation? Why is it such a consistent theme in your body of work?
Right. Well, I grew up in the 70s. I had an opportunity to have a childhood, what I thought was a childhood, where it was, everybody was the same person in my neighborhood. We all went to church on Sunday. My father's cut lawns on Saturday morning and things like that. We played games in the street. We didn't know we were poor until we were bust. We didn't know that we were without love, until we were bust. We saw people treat us differently. I didn't know that stuff until I was bused. So my childhood went away in 6th grade when I was told that I was somehow different than all the other little kids. So different that when the teacher, created all the desks, the little communities, she put me in a community by myself, by the bathroom. And so my point was let them be children, let them live the life that their compatriots live. Let them exist freely in a world that they're not made to feel as they're adults and can make adult decisions. They're children. Yeah. And so that's, kind of the basis of the work is, allow them to live the same you want your children to live.
Was that also the time when you first realized that you were drawn to art?
Yeah, well, I was drawn to art in the 3rd grade,
Okay.
actually, before, I went to that school. But, I was a hustler. I used to do these little drawings and sell them for pencil and paper. I would do these little portraits, put a little crown on their head.
Were over that.
Yeah, so my mom said, where's all this paper coming from? I said, that's my loot, that's my money. And I to this day, I love really nice pencils.
Yeah.
It's because when I spotted a pencil I wanted, I could paint them anything they wanted and get that pencil. So yeah, so I was an artist, knowing that I was an artist in the 3rd grade, and then just continued to move through the art. Art has been my salvation. It has been my way out. It has been my dream. It's the dark space in my life. It is the light.
Yeah. Do you feel like it gave you space to work out some of the kind of challenges that you were dealing with, moving through your childhood, moving through school, navigating this kind of,
I know. I really, not until maybe last year, I didn't think the work was about me. Even though I used my face in some of the works, it wasn't about me because I've grown so far from that little kid.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize it anymore as being me per se. And so not until I did the piece Becoming, and I should have kept that work. I sold it. And capitalism.
Exactly.
Got me by the neck. So I wished I would have kept that work because I thought that was more me and about me and how I navigated being 10, 11, 12.
Right.
And so yeah, I'm just really, when I do Little Girls, I think about independence. What type of independence, and when do we actually put on our gloves to start fighting for our identity?
Yeah.
It's very early on. Young white girls don't have to do that. Not, I don't think ever, but maybe some will disagree with me. But really, by the time we're about 15, we have our gloves tightly on. We're looking at our aunts, we're looking at our mothers, we're looking at our godmothers, how we are to enter this world and what we have to fight for our own beauty. And so one of the things that I thought when I was eight, I started to assert my independence because I had 3 sisters. We all were close in age. My mother would dress us in the same dress. One was blue, one was red, one was green. And we all had 2 ponytails, bump, bump, bump. I had glasses, that's Deborah. So it was no separation, really.
Yeah.
I remember the day when I asked my mom, could I have 3 ponytails? I mean, do I have to give you some money to get 3 ponytails? And so I knew I started trying to wear different clothes. The clothes did not match, and I didn't care. It was my assertion of my own independence, separating myself from my sisters. So I think that stuff happens when you're 8, 9, and 10.
Right.
You start, it's trying to sing and dance and comb your own hair,
She wouldn't let you use any of the money you made from selling your paintings, your little drawing?
I didn't make money. I make paper pencils. Now, I don't know where you from, but they ain't accepting that at the bank. And you can't pay no bills with no pencil. But, but no. It's so weird. We were thinking about this the other day, one of my friends, and we were saying, she said, Deb, you always been an artist. She said, it's just so weird that, there are a lot of people who go to their whole lives not knowing what their passion is. And my passion has always been art. I mean, I cannot not do it. I have taken some time off from doing it.
Right.
But I'm constantly, even last night in the hotel room, I was thinking about how I'm going to move this next group of work and how I'm going to apply it, Right. And, I purposely didn't bring a book, pencil, nothing. And I just was thinking, My father used to hate when I was thinking. I don't know why he hate when I think. I mean, I'm going off a little bit, but I used to wonder, why would he get mad when I was thinking? Just thinking,
Just thinking.
Not bothering anybody, sitting in the chair. He said, what you doing? I said, I'm thinking. He would get mad. It's crazy.
Something about that is not surprising to hear because I feel like in the family, the artist is always the kind of one that people are fearful of.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Just the way that they're able to see things, the way that they question, family histories,
Right.
or the role that they play, the role that they should play, the vision that they have for themselves and where they might want to go. I feel like you had a great vision for where you wanted your work to take you.
Right.
Even if it was just paper. So as Arlene mentioned, your work gives the exhibition When You See Me Visibility in Contemporary Art History its title. This is a work that you made in 2019. The exhibition itself was really kind of prompted by the curatorial team's interest in the ways that the landscape and the discourse around representation had altered dramatically over the last, say, 5 years. So I'm curious what the title signifies for you. How did you title that work?
It was so weird because the work is based on this idea that when you see a group of black boys, especially if you're not black yourself, you get fearful. And I always thought, well, what is so fearful about a group of boys hanging out, sitting down, maybe they're done playing basketball or whatever, and they just shooting, just talking trash and putting a shine on each other. And I can't remember, it must have been a news story because I remember wanting to do this after hearing that. And so in this group, these boys are marching forward. I mean, actually walking forward. They're in a group, and one is saying, hey, stay away, no problem. And then the others are saying, one is saying, come along with us. It's the idea that, we're not monolithic in our thinking, that some of us want us to really, you can't reach somebody with a closed fist. We know that. You have to have an open hand. And then that whole idea of them dressed, and then I thought, well, maybe if they were dressed differently, then they wouldn't seem like a threat. So I put them all in really nice clothing. But yet people still see that as a threat because they're not seeing the kids, they're seeing the black skin and the masculinity, even though they're children. I tell people this all the time. My girl pieces sell way faster than the boys. The boys sell almost where people can't get, I call it, I was with my friend yesterday, I call it the old maids. You have really great pieces and you got some little old maids at the back. And the boys sometimes, take that role on, and I always find that very strange. Yeah. I can do some beautiful black pieces of boys, and they just do not sell. My gallery, in December at the fair, they said, do you have any more girls? We already sold all the ones we have. And I said, well, you have 2 other pieces. They said, yeah, but they're boys. Yeah.
What made you turn to Black boyhood as a theme in your work? You'd been making work around Black girls for many years.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a man, but I thought that there's a lot of issues that goes with being a black man. Yeah. And then how people don't understand that when little black boys doing the same thing as little white boys, they are put in special ed classes. They're acting up. It's all negative. By the 3rd grade, you're always labeled as hard, difficult person to deal with. And they're just really expressing the best way they can, who they are. They may not slept well that night. They may have, didn't get breakfast that morning, and they act up. And it's just a kid being a kid. But for black boys, their automatic stereotype is being difficult. Yeah. And then they're put in special classes. So one of the things I wanted to challenge that notion is that, they're not that. They're not men. They're boys. And then we have that track from, and then somehow they're not, inspired to stay in school. So then you have from the jailhouse from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse, because no one really takes the time to go in and see what they want to do. What's your passion? What do you want to do? Yeah. What's wrong? Why? Just simple questions. Mm-hmm. And, people will work if you work with them. Yeah. And so I felt like a lot of times, just by different stories I've read, I always talk about George Stinney piece, which I think is the best work that I've ever done, all of them. And it's a little boy, who was accused of murdering 2 little girls. What made him get executed is that he said, I saw them that day. Mm-hmm. And he was with his twin sister. It was no way, he was too small to carry those kids across the field and murder them. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just too much. And they had bicycles. He hadn't had shoes for a year. I mean, his trauma of his feet would have been carrying bodies. And he was arrested in 3 days, tried, and he was executed in 80 days total. And he was
How old was he when he was
14.
14, right? Yeah.
And he was so small and little that they had to pile him books on the seat.
Yeah.
And they put the thing on, and while I was executing, it fell off. So they had to put it back on and start again. So he didn't even have a peaceful going home. So the laws changed that you cannot no longer execute kids, under 21, I think. His death in South Carolina, started that whole thing. But the idea of just your voice, and I saw them, and that was your death sentence. Wow. And so having, be able to talk and be heard and seen is so very important to me. And I think black boys, sometimes are labeled as thugs and thieves way too early.
Way too early. Yeah. Yeah, always vulnerable to all kinds of state violence.
Absolutely.
Just as black girls are. I wonder what your own relationship to visibility is. Maybe in your everyday life, but we haven't even talked about your work in the show or how it sits in relation to all the other works. What's your relationship to visibility via the art world? Right. You've been making this work for years, so no one needed to tell Deborah that she should pay attention to, the stakes of representation in regards to Black life. But I wonder maybe how your own relationship to this capitalistic world that you move through and navigate has maybe shaped the work, or even kind of, kind of clarified your aims as an artist.
Yeah. Well, just like every I always say real artist. I'm going to have to stop that. But every real artist goes through different stages of art in their lives. I mean, I have a friend here, and we're going to talk about her a little bit at the end, but has seen the transformation of my work. I was a painter. I am a painter at heart. I love painting. Collage happened for me when I saw Metal World Peace, it's, I'm losing his name right now, but he was on CNN, and someone threw some water in his face, and he got up and went into the crowd, and he pummeled this one kid, and they showed that over and over and over on CNN. So the pieces that I was painting, the beautiful little kids in church, the gardens, the Black romantic I was doing, the world wasn't seeing that. What was projecting into the world, this violent person, this oneness of Blackness. And so I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I see. And so I went on a little journey. I thought it was going to be a small journey. I said, I'm going to give the summer, and I'm going to just let the work go, and I'm going to just do what I think the world sees in Black people. And then 1 year passed, 2 years, I started losing customer clients. Because the work started to change. It started to ask questions. It started to tell different types of stories. Things were just not easily recognizable or easily assumed or consumed. And so what I realized is that the work needed more. And what was missing from the work always was literature. I didn't know it was literature. And once I added literature and scholarship to the work just bloomed, and then it grew into what you see today. So like we are forever, I would say, we are seen and unseen. Yeah. We are seen when when you want to see us, but you can stand in line at the store and not be seen at all. That's the day you're wearing your black suit and you don't know it, you put it on. And then no one can see you and ask and help you. So visibility in the art world, while I enjoy the perks of it, the capitalism of it, but I am still forever a working artist. Yeah. And I'm gonna continue. The new work that I'm doing is so different. And I think it's timely because, I started having a little seizure when I started talking. But so we have to, not have that. But it's so weird how the work is moving in that direction when I didn't even think it was supposed to.
Right.
And so I went to Germany, Berlin, and it's a little Bernesses happening that if we look closely.
Yeah.
So the work is moving in that direction, and while it is still using kids as my main catalyst, it is talking in different ways a consumption of the human body and what that looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm just constantly moving forward and trying to grow the work. And while success, I always tell people, I always felt like a successful artist. I was eating Spam and eggs and, whatever. I was going to my mom stealing food because I was so poor. But I always felt like I was successful in a way because I was earnest with the work.
Yeah.
I never not had the opportunity to just want to do the work. And one of my friends wrote my letter of recommendation for the Pollock-Krasner Grant. That was the key. The Pollock-Krasner Grant was the key to me. And she said, I would want to see what Deb's work looked like if she did not have to worry about food and living and trying to pay bills, when she can work without fear. That's Vicki Meeks. And I was like, and when I got that grant, I was allowed to, because it took rent off the table, it took food off the table, it took lights off the table, it took everything, and the table was empty. And it was time for me to do my work. Yeah. And I even remember saying, because I would do work to sell, not do art. Mm-hmm. And so I remember at that time, and I wanted to put a hand here, and I said, well, if nobody buys it, it's okay. And I started to work without fear, and that's how the work happens.
That's how the work happens. Yeah. It was a calling. It was a vocation.
Yeah.
It wasn't about this careerist climb for you.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for a long time, Deborah.
Yeah, well, I've been doing it we ain't talking about this gray hair. I was gonna dye this hair before I came, but I ran out of time. But the type of success that people know now happened in 2017. Mm-hmm. But I've been working for a long time. Before that, Mm-hmm. I like it now, though. It's better. No more spam.
So you mentioned literature sort of helping you move the work forward. We have a James Baldwin quote up in one of these slides. What literature were you reading or taking? Was it Baldwin?
James Baldwin. James Baldwin was I always tell, I started out, though, with Cornel West. Pre-Obama Cornel West. We can't talk about post-Obama Cornel West. I can't.
I would agree.
Yeah. So Cornel West, Toni Morrison, Bell Hooks, everybody, Frantz Fanon, Blackface White Mask, all of that. That whole the idea they just thought, Judith Butler, everybody. Honestly, I can't read Judith Butler. She just 1%.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta be smart. I like. Okay, Judith.
That's what makes it fun. The challenge, thinking through all her ideas.
Yeah, but she talks about what makes a life valuable. She needs to make that where everybody can understand. It's like, okay, crying in my car, I couldn't understand Judith Butler. I had to write an essay on something you don't understand. What is that about? So, but anyway, when I read What Makes a Valuable Life by Judith Butler, it talked about Palestine and what makes one life more important than the other. Yeah. And it's not anything. She breaks it down and then brings you home with it. I love it.
No, she's incredible. And she's written so much, too, about, gender identity and self-presentation. Exactly. And I think that certainly shows up in your work as well, in the way that you're collaging and reassembling. And it makes me wonder, collage is a technique that you've pursued for a long time now. And we can see all the different kind of source material that you're bringing together. You're also painting in these works. Why is it a kind of useful method for you for thinking through your subjects?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that, because it brought me back to Ron Artest, what I couldn't remember, before, 50, 50, 50, 50, 60, 60. Anyway, so when I saw the thing with Ron Artest, okay, meta real piece, it's just one image, and I knew that Black people were more than that. What collage did was give me a pathway to put multiple faces in it. I asked what I asked, very simple, find that one face and find that humanity in that person. Once humanity meets humanity, you can no longer see them as lesser than. So that's what the whole idea of doing collage, it just opened up the door for me to talk about multiple things in the work. And multiple faces, in that work, I know it's not up, but you see James Baldwin's faces in there, Sidney Poitier's faces in there.
And When You See Me?
And When You See Me, I
Okay.
can point them. If we can get it up, I can.
Can we get to When You See Me?
Oh yeah.
It'll roll around. It's the next
It'll
one.
come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not that one. One more. So anyway, so in that When We See You, there's Sidney Poitier and the Defiant one, that's in the face.
Yeah.
Then we have James Baldwin who.
Yeah, I need
speaks
you
the
to show me all of this
Yeah,
because I didn't even notice any of this.
Who speak the truth. It'll come up next week, but but we'll talk about it.
I can use it now? Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the little boy with the stripe, the green and stripe, that's Sidney Poitier's face, and the Defiant one. The other
Where?
one.
Right here?
Right there. Right there, the little boy with the green stripe.
Okay.
Right
Oh,
inside.
yes, I see it.
And then
I
the
do
other
see
one
something
over
there.
here, and the very last is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner face. James Baldwin is right there, and the
The eye,
red and the eye of the
Yeah,
eye.
okay.
God, I forgot that. Glenn Thurman's face is right there when he was a boy, and the black pants right up front, and God, it's another actor I told you I'm getting old. I can't think, but all sorts of faces.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so you get to kind of break away from this idea of Blackness as a monolith and having all this source material that you get to. Yeah.
Well, people keep pulling, like The Godfather, they keep pulling us back
They
in.
keep- yeah.
Even though we say we are different. The Black experience is multiple things.
Yeah.
It is not one thing. Your experience is a Black experience. My experience is a Black, and then we get to go. And yeah, we're gonna have some shared ideologies. We're gonna have some shared experience. But other than that, you're still an individual person. We're the only group who they think have the same experience and everything. We have one mind. What am I thinking? It's like, come on.
Yeah. Amazing.
Chocolate cake. Yeah, all right.
Is everything else? I could go for some chocolate cake. When I think about collage, I think about, artists like Romare Bearden, but I wonder who your predecessors are.
Right.
What artists you really feel like you're kind of in conversation with?
Well, I think a lot of them, I told you back, I can't say Romare Bearden and Hannah Hawk anymore. I mean, I could say it, but
It feels
like
tired
there's
at this
more
point.
to it. I mean, because literature has played such a big role.
Right.
But Egon Schiele, the way his body moves, the way he, the abstractness of his work. Carrie James Marshall, the dark and the dark pieces, the seeing.
Right.
It's a lot of figurative work. I do a lot of text-based. We talked about Chris Wool and Edward Shea. There are people who like Kirk Schwitter. Still part of the Dadaism that used, like the reason why I love Hannah Hawk so much is because she used art as agency. She created power in the faces and how you can talk about certain things. Kirk Schwitter did the same thing. Very rich person, but wanted to talk about the poor person and how he used text to do that. So if you can use those things as vehicles to change people's mind, then that's very important. right now, Amy Sherrill's at my house. I love her work. You know, the stillness of that, the pose, the poise. I mean, all of those things you just love when you see the work. I mean, Jamie Holmes. I love Jamie Holmes. He's in the show. You know, it's beautiful work. Been begging him for a trade. You know, I don't know what I gotta do. I'm not gonna fight that big dog he has in there. He always posts on the internet.
Well, he's here today, so I think maybe we could sort it out
Yeah,
today.
maybe I can get some
Yeah.
on the luxury bus going back to Austin. But it's just, you know, there are so many people who make up this work that I can't even talk about, because it's just, you know, sometimes it's letting too many people in. But it's the kids on my street. In my neighborhood, someone I saw at HEB,
Right.
I see a little girl, she's dancing around, she has on boots and little sweats and a tutu and all sorts of stuff. I mean, who dressed her? She did. So that whole act of independence, you know, is beautiful. So there's a lot of things, like I said, that's in the
inform
work.
the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you've mentioned these Dada and Surrealist artists, though, because so much of those movements were about politics. You know, they were political in their thrust, and I think your work too is really kind of tied to a political ethos.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm you know, I don't know. I mean, it's always you always have this self-examination. Is the work too sweet? Is the work? I mean, the color. Well, I tell people, if you look beyond the work, the colors are there to seduce you, to bring you into the work.
Yeah.
The message is the medicine that cures you. If you really go and look, you know, you go and see. Well, there's two people in there. One's telling you to come and one telling you to stay away. You know, one is walking with his head down, and the other is looking forward with his fist out. So it's just multiple things going on at this time, and you go and unpack this, and then maybe that's the medicine in the work, that the colors are not, you know, and we talked about trying to bring people down. If you tell somebody, okay, I know you were a slave owner, I know your family did this and that to me, and I don't give you no room to move from that. You know, you're the colonizer, and I know that. Instantaneously, the board goes up. There's nothing else you can tell me, because now the wall has come up, the defense. They don't want to be responsible for what ancestors and blah, blah, blah did. So somehow you have to be able to approach them with an open hand, with some dialogue. And one of the things, children always do that. And also colors and without fear. Yeah. It's something that you can approach, you know.
There's a lot of layers in it.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that's Oakley's hand right there. He died a couple years back.
Oakley and Weser.
Yeah, those are his hands in the work. I love, because he did a Biennale. He brought black art first time in a long time. So there are people who move history. I always tell them it's a four-pronged approach to my work. That's the thesis of my work, is black culture, American culture, black history, and American history. All those, and black history is American history. I separate the two because we have our own history that's been brought back from us from slavery.
That sounds like a Black Panther agenda. You say
Yeah.
you have a four-prong with it?
Yeah. I'm smart.
So maybe before we open up to the audience, I'll just ask like what you're working on now. You had mentioned a little bit where the work is going.
I can talk a little bit about it, but you know, I got
just whatever you feel comfortable.
You know, I got people listening. I put a little doll up, and somebody say, "I'm doing the doll." I say,
Okay.
All right, I can tell a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Last year was my research year, guys, and I really went out and I wanted to see, you know, I was telling you about Ava DuVernay, title of this work, you know, I had to call her because I ain't trying to copy no one. And I called her, I said, hey, Ava, I want to name this big piece, When They See,
When you
see, that's what's
When
going
you
to
see me.
When you see me.
When they see us.
When they see us. And I asked her, I said, you know, do you feel that's too close to your movie?
Yeah.
And she said, no, sister, go ahead and do it. You know, I am happy to be creating works at the same time you're creating work. And it was really beautiful. And so Ava did the movie Origin.
Yeah.
And I talked to her. I said, hey, listen, talk to me about this. And I didn't know. I mean, it was the day years old when you find out that the Germans came to America and talked to scientists, doctors, also the theorists and stuff. And they went over and talked to them about slavery and how you enslave black people. And they went over there and they took and murdered millions of people. So they took that knowledge and they just mutilated it. So for me, going to Germany, to Berlin, to talk with people, talk with some of the tropes and the symbols that they used at the time, they killed a lot of black people that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
And they killed a lot of gypsies and Roma people. And so how did that equate to what we're doing now? And then I'm gonna go to South Africa, Cape Town, and talk about this idea of skin color and all of that, and then bring that back, but what I know of slavery and all that, add that, shake it up in a little bag, put it in a skillet full of hot grease, fry it up, and y'all
There
can
you go.
consume it. Yeah,
The spam.
yeah,
Back to the spam.
yeah, I'm ready. But I know we're getting ready to question and answer, and I told you I wanted to talk a little bit about Vicky Meek.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about Vicky
Yeah,
Meek.
yeah.
And then
I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about Vicky Meek.
Yeah.
She ran the South Dallas Cultural Center for a long time, and Vicky know me. She would come and give me a little shows, and like even coming back from Syracuse, I needed a little money to get back, so she threw me a little show, and I did it and made the money to come back. But Vicky Meek has, no one gets into these positions on your own. There's always people, and maybe sometimes you can't give them their flowers, and sometimes you can't tell them about how special they have been in your life and your creativity. And not only that, I ever need my ass kicked, and I'm sorry it's the kids in here, but I ever need my ass kicked, I know to call Vicky. She'd be boom, boom. We had a murder on my street. She said, I hear some shooting. I said, Vicky, ain't no shooting. We went out there, cops all around. It was a murder. So you gotta listen to Vicky. I thought it was just somebody, playing, pop, but it was actually a murder. But I'm just saying that, sometimes, you need places like the South Dallas Cultural Center, because what it did, it gave you an opportunity to show your work. I mean, Monkey Chance, I did so many different works, different phases of my work going through there. I have collectors here who purchase that work. They can kind of mark my journey when I decided to stop doing the Black Romantic and supported me, which is fantastic. So it was really important for the for the South Dallas Cultural Center and a person like Vicky to do those things for you, because it helps you grow the work. I mean, she tells people, she can paint. I choose to do collage. I choose to do, because there are rules to painting, and I paint flat. When I started, sometimes I'll be painting, you can see in that hand, I start getting it. I said, ooh, I want to paint that. But I can't paint that because I'm doing so much flat work. And I think that the flatness is important. So those little things start, chirping out. But, I always, thank the people who supported me at the very beginning, because it's very important.
Amazing. Shout out to Vicky Meek.
Shout out to Vicky Meek. Vicky Meek. So.
Okay. Any questions from the audience?
And yeah, somebody asked a question.
We'll go to Jamie.
Yes. Could you elaborate on the influence of literature on your work? I found that very interesting, but can you expand on that a little bit?
It's so weird. I didn't think I needed literature. I didn't know it was a part of what I needed for my work. When I talk about Cornel West, and that's why I'm a little sad about it, and I make that joke and I shouldn't make it, but Cornel West, the reader, I read that book when he talked about the black body. In that book, it just broke it. It was so easy for me to understand how the world saw the black body and what it meant, black sexuality, how it ran through slavery and the multiplicity of blackness, and it was great. I mean, so that was the first book I read. Then I did Bell Hooks, and then I realized that there was more and more and more. And then I just, not this work, but that work right there, The Dove, by the Piece of the Dove. I was listening to Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon. I listened to that milkman and how he was able to fly. I mean, we're capable of flight, but it's beat out of us that we don't know that's special. So all the things that literature has opened the door for me. I do this. I have this little book that is The Light of the Warrior. And it tells you how to find that light that exists within you. And so literature was missing. I didn't know. It was the salt and the pepper and everything. And it just made the work better. And I was reading so much, like theoretical books and stuff like that. And my friend said, "You're talking like that." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So then she said, "Well, maybe you should read some lighter books." And so I started reading. She said, "I know this book by this guy who's an Israeli spy, but he's an artist by day and a spy by night." So I started reading that. So that gave me energy. So yeah, I'm never gonna be not without stuff to talk about in my work. And when I did an interview on CNN, the guy said, "Well, we're going to run your story when there's a story about a black kid being mistreated." I told him, I said, "It's going to be a couple of weeks. It's not going to be that long." I was in London, and the little boy who was arrested for peeing outside, something that we all have done, the police arrested him, put him in a SWAT car, and took him downtown. So many little kids have peed outside. He could have admonished him. He was a big grown man. Little boy was waiting for his mom. It took too long, and he just, I just don't understand how they don't see their own children, their own nieces and nephews. They don't see little people making little people mistakes. And to change who he is by arresting him. He put on handcuffs. They didn't fit. I mean, it's this whole idea of destroying someone that kills me. And so here's Victor Black. Here we are on CNN. It wasn't even 2 weeks. And it happens all the time. So, yeah, literature is so very important to my practice.
I just want to thank you for being the inspiration for this exhibit, which I've seen 3 times. And that's why it's important to have our history and culture.
Right.
We go into spaces that we normally don't go to, but for programs and exhibits like this.
Right, I agree. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hi. How ritualistic is your process with creating? Is there a certain playlist you listen to, a certain meal that's like on your stomach, a snack? Like, how do you get and stay in this?
Well, snacking is always in my brain. So I didn't get this beautiful stomach for not snacking. But I will tell you when, it's time to work. So I tried to, 2 times, I tried to do work with the 1619 project. Reading it and listening to it. I could not work with that. It was too much. I was driving home fast. I was just trying to, get somebody. It was too much. So excuse me, the 1619 project. So there are some books I cannot read or listen to. Toni Morrison, I can listen to almost all her books and do really great art. I do a lot of podcasts. I listen to music. I love jazz. I just listen to jazz. Sometimes it makes me sleepy too. But just to, I'm just so weird because I'm kind of drawing a blank on some of the books. But I always have a list of books. I tell people, even when I travel now, I'm getting in books from London, and the London writers are how it feels to be black in London, and things like that. Echo Ishan, I just got one of his books, and he did 5 black men artists, and it is a beautiful book. So, shout out to Echo. Yeah.
Hello, I'm a art history master's student at Texas Women's, and I'm doing a lot of literary research around bell hooks and Audre Lorde and how a lot of their theories incorporate with artists. So I also wanted to hear more about, I guess specifically, how the Black identity and the Black reality involving with literature relates more to your art process.
Yeah, well, I don't know about any of you guys. When I read those books, I can see how those people look in my head, and how I want that to come out in my work. I'm not. When I listen to literature, I'm not trying to recreate those things, but I'm taking points from that and using it in my work. So, I mean, I haven't read that much Audre Lorde. I mean, I had to read it in grad school, and you know, they beat you down so bad. When you leave out of there, all of it goes away because you just learn. You're not really consuming it in the ways that you want to. So yes, I mean, it's a part of my whole, you know, process of being an artist. But if I ask myself, you know, do I just read books on their own and not in conjunction with trying to create art? I don't. And I don't know what that, because once I found that method and how it worked together, it's like they no longer are two things, they're one thing for me. So, you know, Sarah Lewis, you know, she has a new book out, and we had a conversation, and I just loved everything she was talking about and how that works. I can't wait to get into my studio, put that on audio, and just listen to it as I create this new work.
Yeah, it sounds like the work is not an illustration of what you're reading, but it's just shaping your imagination.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I have a question for you.
All right.
And you opened the door for this. Because I know that we have a number of, you know, next generation young Black women artists in the audience, can you speak to your journey as a Black woman artist specifically to get to where you are now? Because, you know, I know the story, so.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes you have to, like I said, talked about being earnest with your process and the way you create work. You know, I don't know if it's any Black women artists out here? Raise your hand. Okay. All right, sister, look at it. Okay, there we go. So I always say, as you enter the art world, I mean, this is from, you know, Carrie Mae Weems. When I was in grad school and she saw this work, she said, and I was just, you know, telling her all about it, and she said, and I said, okay. And she said, where are you in the work? And I was like, I'm in the work. She said, but where are you? She said, all I see is Wengechi Mutu. I don't see you. And I was really surprised by that, because the idea, I thought I was creating my work with my voice. You have to really know what you're working with and how you're working and how you enter the contemporary art world. Sometimes it's hard to have really good critiques, especially if you're out of school. Especially if you sometimes, because we work in a vacuum, we're in a little room, we're creating, we don't understand that sometimes the work is not moving in the direction that we want it to. I have a lot of failed art out there. It's in houses, it's in museums, and I mean, I just hate it. But I couldn't live with it, because when things happen for you, and they will happen for you, it's gonna be such a rush of people after you that you just get overwhelmed by it. I'm just now in the driver's seat with my work. I mean, and it took me almost 8 years to get there. And people drove the work. You have to stand on your own morals and not be so interested in showing so much that you somehow give up your ideas of what you want your art to look like. I think that's very important. I think that you should also reach out to people who do work similar to yours, not copy, but similar to yours, and have studio visits with them, whether they're virtual or in person. And also curators. And tell, you know, I met Naomi Beckwith for the first time a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I said, how can I get on your radar? And she said, you're on my radar. She's the director at the Guggenheim. She said, "You're on my radar." Then I said, "Well, I wasn't in that last show you did, but," but I said, "I want to ask you something. Will you do a studio visit with me?" And one of the things I want to take off the table, because she's going to be the documentar's curator. I said, "I want to take that off the table. I don't want you to come to my studio in the way to look as I want something. I want you to come to see what I'm doing, hear me talk about it, and see if you understand what I'm doing." It's so very important as artists to reach out to people to help and to listen. And sometimes it hurts your feelings, and you can hate them for a year, but get over it, because the thing is, sometimes there's some little nuggets in there that you don't see that you need in your practice. Vicki and I was talking about this young artist who does really okay art, but her figures are messed up. I mean, they are Elephant Man, they are messed up. I don't know, people can't walk with the way she paints. So when you say, "Hey, are you looking at the human form? Maybe you should take some figure drawing classes. Maybe you should do that." It's not a critique on you and nothing like that. It's asking you that may be a weak link in your practice that you need to firm up. I have them in my work. I still have them in my work. I'm not going to point them out in this work. Yeah, they in there. And it just happens. And you go on and you get better the next one. It's the seed to get better for the next one. Is that it, Vicki? That's what I need to say? Okay. All right.
Thank you so much for being here. Your work is so beautiful. You've already started to talk about Blackness not being a monolith, and Ava's work with origins and the Germans coming and studying and taking that knowledge to destroy and harm so many people. I and my friends have been having conversations recently about all of the work that goes into defining Blackness and upholding the systems and all of the harm that comes from that. How do you how do you think about identifying as Black when the Europeans made that sort of label up to do the things that they did to African people? Like, how do you think about Blackness and your identity in that?
Yeah, well, you're 25 or 24. I mean, I consider myself, like Blackness, like we talked about this in my studio, that's who I am. I'm proud to be Black. I'm proud to identify as Black person and what that means, what the positive things of it and the negative things of it. I don't like, we talked about this monolith, sometimes we have group shame or a secondhand shame for something somebody else did, because we're feeding into that idea that we're all the same, and we're not. So I still, in my practice, the reason why I have okay, let me just tell you, I'm gonna give you this, but I'm gonna give it to you. What I'm doing in my work now is I'm painting in the faces. I'm doing collage and paint. And what I'm saying is that we're moving out of this idea of multiple images. We're moving out to this one. You have to accept me for who I am and how I present myself today. I am no longer all these other people in my work. And so that is what the movement of the new work is. And you're right, it's self-identifying as yourself. And they have to accept it. It's no longer am I asking you to find one face and find my humanity. This is who I am. This person, this oneness. And you have to accept me for who I am. So that's where the work is moving toward. Okay, I said it.
Hey, how's it going? I'm
Hey,
Lakeem.
okay.
I have a question about your technical use of negative space and how your backgrounds are always clean with a solid white color. And earlier you mentioned you use colors to draw people in and a message for medicine. So what are some of your design approaches when you're creating work, and how do you feel that impacts the message that you're giving?
Yeah, I used to say before COVID that white space was just as important as the field space, because we are always under the gaze of whiteness. We are seen under the gaze of whiteness, not of blackness, of whiteness. And the white spaces and how we presented ourselves in those spaces were very important. Now, what's happened through COVID is the pieces started to get larger. They start taking up more space. They no longer need the white space to define them anymore. So while it was important in the early works, now the white space is shrinking, because as we grow and as we become more independent and more defined by our blackness, we no longer need to be under the gaze of whiteness anymore. And so that's very important in the work too. So yeah, I love to play with space. I loved, especially from 2016 to 2020, I'd love to see the work move around the page. You know, when you put up an exhibit of mine, the works will be moving in harmony, you know, around the page, and it doesn't do that anymore. I don't know what happened, it just happened.
So to be respectful of your time, I think we'll just do one more question.
Sure.
Hi, I know you were talking about before when you were doing the Black Romantic and you kind of shifted into this new era of your work. Do you see yourself completely divorcing from the Black Romantic, or do you see yourself reincorporating that at some point in those dualities of experience?
Right. Well, thank you for that. I see that Black Romantic is coming back into my work. I'm painting more. If we put up the other three girls, I have a rule that it was supposed to be 80% collage, and then 10% drawing, 5% painting, but most of it was collage. If you look at my newest work, most of it, not those other ones, most of it now is painting. So most of all of that is painted. And just the faces are collage, all the rest is painted. So now painting is it's taking up more space, because I think I am moving back toward doing more of that, like that whole dress, that skirt, those two skirts are painted. But I would never, well, you never for saying never, but I don't see myself going to the Black Romantic, because I think the world has passed that. And the way that they view Black people, and the way that, it's almost, the reason why they call it romanticism is because it's almost like it's like, I don't know, it's like days gone by, to be romantic about. I mean, I have no problem with artists who do that type of work. I think that I made a living off of that for almost 30 years. I just thought, when I saw CNN, again, showing Ron Artest so many times, I just said, we don't see more feel-good stories about Black people like that. I mean, not like that, but, And so I wanted to challenge that. And so I guess the short answer is no, I don't see myself going back. I'm a Texan. I went all the way around the fence for that one. Where was the answer? I just want to know. All right.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, and thank you all for being here.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.